down onto the first step, and that's when she slowly turned to face me. I almost puked when I saw her face. Late teens to early 20s. She was gorgeous on one side of her face, but the other side was missing. By missing, I mean that her skin was shredded.
I gotta go potty.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Darkling Chronicles. Now, if you couldn't tell, I've just had my hair done. I'm just going to put it out there on here. I absolutely love it. Oh, it's just, when you just have your hair done, you just think, yeah, the world is brighter, the birds are singing louder, everything seems to suit you. That's how I feel right now, and I've only just got home. I actually did stop on the way home and had a Starbucks, which I don't normally do. And I also had a cheese toastie and a blueberry muffin. No fucks. The payday treat to myself, my hair, and the Starbucks is like elite level of living, and I am very grateful for that. I actually put out my podcast a week ahead. So by the time you listen to this, you would have already had the hottest week that probably has hit the UK in a very long time. I'm about to live it, and the dog hates it. The dog absolutely hates it. I've got a cooling pad for him, which is non-toxic, do not worry. He isn't cool. So I went on Amazon a little while ago and I bought him a watermelon tent. Yeah, that's the kind of levels we're living on now. The dog in the picture looks so happy, and I thought Lukey can be this happy too in his chilled little watermelon tent. I don't know. So he can have that in the garden, and also if I take him down the beach of an evening, he can just be in his little watermelon tent. He doesn't go in the sea, so he'll probably just stay in that and watch me dip my feet in. Now, I also bought him one of these little pads that you plug into the hose pipe, and it's got like 3 settings, low, medium and high, and it like cascades water. If he does not use that, I'll be using it. I'm working from home all week. It's going to be roasting. I bought myself a fan as well to make sure that everything is set up and ready. But if it is boiling and I'm sweating my backside off, I will be running into that cascade of water and then running back to the office. I've got it sorted. It's fine. Now, tonight's podcast is about college ghost stories, and there's a few creepy ones on here. I just absolutely love going on Reddit and just picking out some really cool stories. And the ones that I choose are from years ago, because it's less likely that they're going to be AI. And I don't know, I think my logic's quite good there, because it's amazing how many people just make up lies with AI these days. I just don't know why. I don't know why people need to lie, because it just makes it so much harder for the rest of us who do believe in ghosts to continue to tell people they are actually real. However, it doesn't matter, does it? Now, put your brain in that bowl, chill out. Wherever you're listening to this, I hope that you've had the most incredible day. If you have a ghost story before I start, please email me, thedarklingchronicles25@gmail.com. Everything you need to know is in the description of this podcast. Also, at the moment, I have 14 ghost story books left. And I have actually just put an option on my website for you to say, yes, you'd like it signed, and like a name you'd like it signed to. If that's you, you can put you in there. And also I've done a digital download of that book, which is $5.99. So you get instant access to it. I just feel like it's really cool because it's all ghost stories that people have sent me through TikTok. I obviously started my journey doing this through TikTok, and those people who were following gave me permission to do so. It was a really cool idea. So if you know someone who might like that, the physical copy I can sign. Not that I think that means a lot, but people like it. So that's really nice. Or you can get the instant download, but it's a really great coffee table book. I will put the link in the description for that as well. As I've said to you guys before, I would love to be doing this more as a job. So if you can support and you want to support, and you even want to just get the downloadable 51 stories. It says 50, but there's 51 stories in there. I hid a little bonus one in there for you for $5.99. That would be amazing. But it doesn't matter if you don't. I still love that you're here. And if you have ghost pictures or videos or anything that you want to send me, I would love to have a talk to you about it. Now let's get into these stories before I absolutely boil. It's only Monday. It's Monday the 22nd of June today. It's my birthday the other day, by the way, guys. I had just a low-key birthday this year. Me and my sister just watched the Michael Jackson film because unfortunately the day before was my uncle's funeral, bless his heart. So bit of a weird week last week. I think, to be honest, the last 3 weeks have been wild. I don't know if you guys have felt it too, but I think there's been something energetically in the air. But it has now feels like it's kind of like taken a turn, and it actually feels more positive now. And I swear that people I've spoken to have just had really like intense things happen to them. And now it just feels like it's getting better. Let me know if that's you. Like, I'm talking like people dying in their family, just things going on with their job, like really random shit. But now it feels like we're back on track and the energy has shifted and it's better again. I don't know. Maybe it's got something to do with Trump meeting those aliens. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Also, didn't they look like, is it the Valtori? I can't even say their name, off of Twilight. They look really cool. And I know people will say like, oh, it was just AI, but that was why AI was created, so that they can do things like that and we'll just think it's fake. I still don't know if it's real. I am kind of joking a little bit. But how cool would it be if it was? Because people are saying they're like nomadic ones. I don't really know. All I know is that there's 82 alien races apparently. And that was, I think I've told you guys before, from an actual senator, retired senator in Canada, who was talking about that in a very public, like official room where they could record. And he was telling people there's 82 species. And I think that this species that was talking to Donald Trump is actually a good species, which is really strange because the reputation that Donald's got. So anyway, I don't know anything really about that. I don't really know about any of that. So it's all just a lot, isn't it? It's like the world is an arena at the moment. And if you have ever read any Dolores Cannon books, or if you haven't, I strongly recommend reading her books. Oh my God. She talks about the three waves of people coming here, and how the world's going to like evolve, and how basically it's going to split into two. And it's not a physical split into two, but it's like a conscious split into two. And I can feel that now. Basically, if you're quite like a self-aware, energetically woken person, I wouldn't say woke. I think there's a difference between being woke and being awake. I would say that I'm very awake to things that are going on in the world, and I see history different. I see everything different, to the point where people are like, that can't be true. And I'm like, well, you haven't even looked into it yourself, so you can't poo-poo what I actually think is true. But I can feel it now, this energetic shift. It's been here for a few years now, probably been here for a bit longer in the making. But if you haven't listened to any of Dolores Cannon's stuff, go and read her stuff, because it is fascinating. It's all about like, she did quantum hypnosis, I think it is. And essentially like she was able to connect to the person that she was reading, like higher selves and stuff. And she got over 40, I think it's over 40 years, she did thousands of these readings. None of these people knew each other, and she was getting like similar stuff. So you can actually put her findings together and say that it's quite valuable proof that there is something else out there. And listen, if Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla can believe that there is a God or some bigger creator, is good enough for me. Anyway, I'm going way off piste here. Now let's read you these ghost stories, because that's why you're here. I just go off on tangents, don't I? I don't even know why you listen to me. If anyone is actually interested in like the Dolores Cannon stuff or anything like that, I will do a podcast on it, because oh my God, I could talk to you about it for about 10 years. Good. I won't. You'll probably be so bored you'll turn into dust, but that's fine. This first story, I got so excited like I did last time that I forgot to actually copy who it was from. So if this is your story, I'm so sorry that I cannot credit you for it. It's basically just me not trying to be malicious, just being a bit of an idiot and just cracking on, getting excited, copying and paste it, and then cracking on with another story. Anyway, this person has two stories, and one of them is in college and one of them is in high school. So we'll start with their college story. And they say, there's this one haunted suite in one of the old dorms. It's completely blocked off. The only way you can break in is through the suite next to it, which ironically was a designated party suite. A student ended their life in that suite around 30 years ago and has haunted it ever since. Eventually, none of the other suite mates or anyone else could live in it, so the college blocked it off. My friend once sneaked into that suite with a bunch of other people. She said the whole place was empty as expected, except there was a single chair in the middle of the common room. That chair is said to have been there so that the student spirit can sit and not bother people. Some people said it was the chair the student used to hang himself. My friend and the other people brought a Ouija board with them and used it to talk to the spirit. They didn't get any concrete answers, but could confirm through yes or no questions that they were indeed talking to that student spirit. Before they could ask any more questions, a door violently slammed itself in front of their faces. Absolutely no wind at all, since the entire place was sealed off. And they checked every single room to make sure no one else was there when they first came in. At that, they bolted. And I don't blame them. This is the next story, and it's the high school story. And this person says, I taught at a small high school for a few years. The building was pretty new and in good condition. My classroom was fine, no paranormal vibe at all, at first. A few months into the school year, I brought in 2 portraits of 2 politicians/activists to hang on the wall. One was a man and one was a woman, and they put in brackets, I taught social studies and they were very relevant to my lessons. I hung them on 2 pieces of metal drilled into the wall using round hooks. One of them, the portrait of the woman, kept falling off the wall. I had carpeted floors, so it wasn't damaged, it was just annoying. My co-worker joked that I had a sexist ghost haunting my room. None of the windows in this entire building could be opened, so I couldn't blame it on the wind, and they fell when I was in the room with the door closed. So I literally had no idea what caused it. One day, I was not in the mood, so as soon as I heard the portrait falling one more time, I cursed the ghost out, saying it was disrespectful towards female activists. And they put in brackets, I didn't actually believe there was a ghost haunting the room. I just yelled into the void of frustration. After that, the wall clock that had been fine suddenly began to fall down multiple times a week. One day, one of my co-workers, whose room was next to mine, pulled me into her room and told me this. Both of our rooms were probably haunted. The person using the room before me was very uneasy and always found excuses to not be alone in that room. Before I came, her room was very haunted. One time, the hallway camera captured footage of the doorknob turning by itself while absolutely no person was anywhere near it or on that wing. After I came, my room became the active one with all the stuff flying off the wall. I was moved to a different room the year after and never had an issue. Later, I found out the school building used to be an orphanage. Ooh. Maybe those children ghosts knew that that woman whoever you were hanging on the wall wasn't a very good person. Because, I mean, if you know about Hillary Clinton, it could have well have been her, and she ain't right. I'm telling you now. Soz if you like her, but not sorry at the same time. She is evil. But, that's a rabbit hole we won't fall down. We won't fall down there. And the next story was from someone who deleted it, and it was written 3 years ago. And they say, I have many stories of ghost experiences, but one college story spanned over 2 years. I was on FaceTime with my now former roommate while we were all home for holidays. They said they heard something weird in the attic and decided to investigate, despite me, who always lived in haunted houses, advising them not to. They did anyway. They began texting me all the time, complaining about seeing and hearing things. I told them to tell it to go away. They didn't. Instead, they gave the entity a name. 2 days later, we were back in our apartment. My partner, who lived with us, began complaining about hearing my voice or my roommate's voice while he showered. I began to hear it too, but with my roommate's voice only. Late at night, I would hear my roommate's closet door open and slam shut. I would also hear their laughter until I texted them, asking them politely to quieten down as I had class the next day. They then sent a Snapchat of them at work and asked me in complete confusion what I was talking about. We didn't have neighbours since the room next to us had been vacant and the new tenants weren't moving in for another few weeks on either side. So I got up and went into my roommate's room. Their closet door was wide open, but otherwise everything looked normal. COVID hit and my roommate couldn't justify staying in the apartment when the lease came to an end, especially since the rest of school was closed for the foreseeable future. They moved out while my partner and I apartment hunted because we didn't want to go back to living with our parents. We found a place and quickly moved in. It was smaller than our last place. I began to have sleep paralysis. I heard my former roommate's voice and my partner's voice whenever I showered. My partner mentioned the same thing. We had the same encounters, but with each other's voices. We would hear the locked bathroom door open and shut and the calling of our names. We would always respond and then peek out the shower curtain to see the door is still closed and locked. We had many sleepless nights together there, and other reasons caused us to move out again. My partner's parents allowed us to stay in their lake house while we searched for a new place, since it was close to where I worked and close enough to the school. But again, we had the same problems of hearing voices when we were alone. I remember our bedroom door was closed and I awoke to a loud banging and someone yelling at us to wake up. I thought it might be my partner's mother, since the voices sounded like a muffled version of hers. I woke up and my partner had told me that no one was there, and that before closing the door, after I'd gone to bed, they saw a figure run from their sister's room and into the parents' room, completely freaking us out. Our final move for college was a week later, and we didn't have any problems with that entity again. That had to be one of the most malicious feelings I've ever experienced. Like I said, I have tons of ghost stories, but none have ever copied voices of those I know and love. Well, let me tell you right now, that is absolutely terrifying. Mimics have just this power to scare the crap out of you. I know that you guys probably listened to my TikToks and you saw the Adam Mawson videos that I shared. I shared the one where basically there's a voice and he looks like Adam looks white as a sheet because a voice, he's in the kitchen and a voice goes or something at him. And everyone in the comments, honestly, the amount of trolls that I've had on Instagram, because obviously I'm quite new to Instagram. I've only been on there a couple of months, whereas TikTok I've been on there for like 15 months. That video has obviously got a lot of reactions out of skeptics, which is fair enough, that's okay, but it's when they're really rude. But Adam actually posted again the other day. I don't know if you follow, if you type in Adam Mawson on TikTok, he talks about like loads of random stuff, but he shared one the other day where he sat, I think, in his living room, and he's talking about a Steven Spielberg film. I can't remember. Is it Disclosure or something? I'm not too sure. And he's excited about going to watch it, and he's talking about it. And this voice right next to him just has I'm not kidding. I feel like I'm quite sensitive to these things, and I get a real good sense of when I'm in danger or like there is a spirit there that is not good. And this thing speaks and every single hair on my body goes up. And I got the same feeling in the video that I shared where he's in the kitchen and this voice speaks. And I wouldn't normally share that just like willy-nilly, just being like, yeah, like my videos and comment, because I'll just post anything on my page. Like, I actually felt something. I actually felt like it was evil. I felt like it's attached to him, and I feel like it's followed his family for years. And it was attached to his dad first, and now it's attached to him. But it keeps happening to him, and it's so scary. And it mimicked his mum when he was like younger. That's why I've brought it up. It mimicked his mum, and it would mimic his dad. And like, it's terrifying. These things are actually real, and I hope to God that I never experience one. I've got a friend called Ripley on TikTok as well, and she's told me a story. She's one of her ex-boyfriends, I think, was quite like a dark energy guy. And she went outside for a cigarette once and saw him walk into the bathroom. The light went on. He waved at her. She waved back, and she went back into the house just to walk past the bathroom on the left. She said her house is kind of like one straight long thing. So you walk through the front entrance, and then you're in like living room, then it's the kitchen kind of thing. Anyway, she walks back in past the bathroom that's on her left, right? The light is still on in there. The door's kind of shut. And she gets into the living room, and her boyfriend is actually in there on the sofa. And she hadn't actually told him anything about what she does. Like, she's a tarot reader and stuff. And apparently she went white as a sheet. And even he was like, what is wrong? Because this ain't good. Like, and she told him what she saw. And it was this mimic actually appeared as her boyfriend. Can you imagine? The next story is from someone called J Sunshine 21, which is probably one of the nicest names we've had from Reddit. Do you remember that one the other day? It was like something about your mum's butt or something. I didn't even know. This person has titled this "My Terrifying College Experience." So, let's judge this and see if it is terrifying. I have read these, by the way. I read them and then I put them in the file. And then when I come to like do my podcast, because I've got like a few that I organize, I can't remember any of them. So sometimes it's a shock for me again about, what's happened to them, This person says, hello, I've been putting off writing this for a while now because some people I told were horrified to be close to me afterwards. I was in my freshman year of college. I wasn't doing very well mentally. A lot of thoughts jumping around in my mind. My room was fairly sized. I had one roommate. We were doing fine. Halfway through the winter semester, I got a horrible feeling of anxiety in this room. If I went to my friend's room, it would be fine. But I always felt like something was watching me in mine. My roommate also started to feel this way. She would constantly be getting sleep paralysis and horrid dreams. She finally had enough and started sleeping at her boyfriend's. So I was alone. Everything was gloomy. I had to sleep with some lights on because I just felt like someone was there. After about 2 days, my roommate was still not there. I go to bed and I hear breathing. It wasn't close to me, but I could still hear it. I was facing my roommate's bed. Behind me was a brick wall. I open my eyes and see this black figure laying down on her bed. I silently freaked out, but tried to stay still and kept watching. And when I did, it sat up and looked at me with burgundy red eyes and had this black mist emitting from its body. I hated it. Immediately, I turned to the brick wall and started saying some mantras. And they put in brackets, it's not my first spirit. So I guess they knew what mantras to say. They said, I stopped. And all of a sudden, I felt something right near me. And the spirit in my ear said, if you sleep tonight, I will kill you. Ugh! I was terrified. I tried not to sleep, but I must have passed out. And oh my God, the dream I had that night was so weird. Basically, I was in a desert with these people sitting in a circle, and in the middle was the dark figure. They started chanting and I was too scared to say anything. I had no idea what was being said, but the leader was yelling at me to chant with them, but it was too late. The dark figure stabbed me in the heart. And I just laid there until like this blue fire rose around me and these circles with lines on the sides appeared all over my body. And I started chanting and the dark figure died. I woke up falling out of bed and clutched my chest because it felt like something had stabbed me, but there was no blood and no open wounds. I never saw the spirit again after that. I called my RA and she said last year some girls had the same experience with the dark figure with the red eyes. They ended up blessing the room after the semester was over. Definitely freaky, hated every second of it. Well, okay, I take it back. That was actually a terrifying college experience. No wonder I put it in there. What do we think? Do we think that some guardians, maybe those were the people in her, the spirits in her dream, telling her to chant so this thing didn't actually get the power to harm her? I mean, if they were telling me to chant in my dream, I'd do it. You know, forget being stabbed in the heart. Like, she actually had to experience this in the dream, being stabbed. I don't even know what that would feel like. I don't want to know what that feels like. I have a few irrational fears, and being stabbed has definitely got to be up there. Ugh, it's gross. Do you know what it is? It's the guts. It's like, I love that we are like just this amazing, glorious creation. We heal ourselves, you know, within reason. We can heal ourselves if we're cut. Like we have this amazing mind that helps us think and prioritize things and understand the world around us. We have emotions that like help us feel these incredible things. And I just think we all take that for granted. But I just can't deal with the fact that we are just a bag of flesh. Veins creep me out, guts creep me out. You put all that together. That's why I can't watch slasher films. Make me feel sick. Can't deal with it. If someone cut their if you cut your finger around me, or if your bone is sticking out your leg and you're around me, you've been dealt a really shit hand there, because I am probably the worst person to have in that situation. Puke, shit, anything like that. I'm your girl. I can handle that. You cut yourself, your fingers hanging off, your head's hanging off, your eyeballs hanging out. I am not your person. You're just going to have to deal with that situation by yourself until the ambulance comes. I'm sorry about that. Any other way, I help you. Just don't have your intestines hanging out, you know? Now, this next story is from someone who wrote it 5 years ago, and they are called Witch Hazel. And they say, on my first day of university, I got there super early so that I could find my way around. The students who had 8 a.m. classes were already in their classrooms, so I wandered around the halls trying to get the lay of the land. There were only 3 other people in the hallway, a professor who was having a conversation with a student, and a young woman dressed fully in black, who was crying so hard that she was puking into a trash can. She was that inconsolable and sobbing loudly. I thought that it was very rude that the other people in the hallway weren't even acknowledging her or offering to help. So I went over and asked what I could do for her. She turned her head very sharply in my direction and croaked a single word: water. By this point, the other people in the hall were looking at us like we were very strange. I walked around until I found a vending machine and bought her a bottle of water. I found a bathroom and grabbed some tissues for her. When I was walking back down the long hallway, Classes were letting out and people were just rudely walking past her while she was crying and puking into this trash can. I couldn't believe how cold people were being and hurried to bring her back some tissues and water. In a blink, the young woman had vanished. She just disappeared into thin air. I checked the trash can after to see if there was vomit inside, but the trash can was completely empty except for a few candy wrappers. It was like she'd never been there at all. It was a super weird start to my first day at university, and at least 2 people witnessed me speaking to this person that only I could see. Later on in the semester, I learnt that that part of the college is famously haunted by a young woman that they call the Lady in Black. There are many variations of the ghost story, but the most common version states that a male student broke the young woman's heart and she committed suicide on the campus. Apparently, she's who I met, and she's still devastated 100 years later. I think, right, this is just my interpretation. I really believe that, I'm not saying you have to be religious. I think religion has caused a lot of wars in this world. Actually, people have misinterpreted religion. And actually, like I've said to you before, it's just love, kindness, understanding. We're all different. We're all different races. We're all different sexualities. We're all different personalities, opinions, because we have to learn to love each other for the way that people are. You know, just because someone doesn't like the color yellow, you can't say that they don't deserve to be alive, you know? And I know that's a very like low key way of describing it, but that is essentially what I believe this higher power that created us wants us to understand. And that is why there has to be difference in this world, so that we can actually understand that we are all just one and connected. Your body might be able to be harmed, but your soul can never die. I just feel like if you don't have any kind of faith, and it doesn't need to be heaven, it doesn't need to be you have all this religious stuff in your mind. It's just actually believing that there is a higher source, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that you're going to go back to when you die. And I think when people don't actually believe that, I've actually had a lot of near-death experience talk about this as well. It's like they get stuck here and they get stuck in the memory of how they died almost and what was happening at that time. Can you imagine being stuck here in that? There's so much we don't understand. I can't even sit here and say that or try and pretend that I do understand it, or I don't. Obviously, if I did, it would be much easier to be alive, because even I have times where I'm like, oh my God, life is so difficult. How the hell am I going to move through this season? It's the hardest one yet. But we do, don't we? We always find a way. But I honestly believe if you have some kind of faith system, however that looks to you, as long as it's from a place of love and you're not Satanist or whatever, I just really believe that when you do pass over, it's not this massive thing. It's like, oh, I have all this faith, so all of these angels have come for me. I really just believe it's low key, people that you love, come and get you. Your soul comes out of your body and then you just go with them into, I suppose it's a bit cheesy, but it is the light. That's what people have described it as in near-death experience stories, which I absolutely love. And I've heard near-death experience stories before as well, where the person says, I was not a good person. I was so focused on myself. I was selfish. And don't get me wrong, you can focus on yourself. People have misinterpreted that. I mean, these people who were selfish, were not very nice people. I think it's good to be selfish to protect yourself. I'm not saying that, but these people were not very nice people. They were selfish, all about themselves. Yeah, didn't really care about others, would walk on people to get to the top kind of thing. And these people, when they've had near-death experiences, there was one in particular that I can't actually recall. I think it was on the channel on YouTube that I watched. I will put the link in my description actually, so you can have a look if you're interested. But his name's Anthony Chen, I think that's how you say his name. My favourite YouTube channel with near-death experience. It will literally alter your perception on death. It's incredible. Just binge it, just binge all of them. It's just people who've had near-death experiences and they're just the most beautiful stories. But yeah, this guy said that he died and he had all of these spirits around him, and he could see his body and he knew that he had died. And they were like, oh, hi, follow us down this hallway, basically. So he was in the hospital hallway, and as he was walking down following these beings, the hallway got darker and darker and it more closed in, and they actually start to be really unkind to him. And they start to say all the really horrible things about him that he, I guess his insecurities inside, he's been trying to keep suppressed. And then he found these beings started really hitting him and hurting him. I guess even when you're a soul, you probably still feel physical, just like we feel physical here. I don't know, it's weird. But he then said that something told him to call out for help, and he found himself, not a religious bloke at all, calling Jesus' name, and this like he called it a few times, and this light came down and basically took him away from these horrible beings. And that's not just like one story, that's one of many stories. I just believe that souls can get stuck here, and I really hate the thought of that. Really hate the thought of a soul being stuck in the in-between of life and death, because apparently on the other side as well, there are a lot of dark things waiting to get you, you know. It's not worth thinking about, is it? For the moment, let's just worry about, you know, getting takeaways. Let's just think about Domino's. Let's think about Domino's cookies. Let's think about some crap TV that we absolutely love, because we are in a very privileged position right now of actually being alive. But it's not something I think that anyone needs to worry about, you know. I know that we have a lot of pain and suffering this side as people die and around us that we absolutely love. And it's really easy for us to just be so, especially like depending on the way that they die, it's so easy for us to be like so just grief stricken. And God, haven't we all been there? And isn't it the worst feeling in the world? It's probably the worst emotion. I think is the most downplayed. I don't think people are told enough how to deal with it. I bang on about this all the time, I think, in my podcast, because I'm just so passionate about it. But death isn't the end. And it's like we can see someone die in the most horrific of ways. And it's like these near-death experience things that I've seen. People have had horrific deaths. Like, just think of the worst deaths you can think of, like, especially when people are attacked in that. Well, I suppose they were near death, but then they were shown so many things on the other side about their attacker, why they did that to them, how this is actually now going to help other people around to actually grow as people. There's so many things going on in the other realms that you just don't see, but all we see is the death, and we then feel, obviously, and rightly so, really sad. If you can see life a bit differently and change your perspective and just know that your soul can never be harmed, only your body can, you can really see the bigger picture of like why we're all here playing this character that we are alive playing now. That's how I see myself. I'm like, Becky, what's she doing? Like, I actually see myself as that. And it doesn't mean that I excuse bad behavior or anything. I still don't think that, you know, even if I believe that everyone will be fine when they die, it doesn't mean that I condone like the worst people on this planet. They're still going to have to answer to something, aren't they? But I still just believe that even the bad people have a purpose here. And it's horrible to say that, isn't it? But they do. There's always a lesson in the good and the bad. And I just think we also have free will. So obviously this high power can't save us from everything. We can't blame it for everything, because there's just lessons in so many things. We have to see the ripples as well that are caused by all of these instances. You know, if I hadn't been through as much grief as I feel like I've been through in my life, and as much, you know, I think I've had a very lovely life compared to most people, but the grief that I have had has made me want to help kids and create these books for them. That's then helping parents, and that's then creating ripples. Everything just has its place and its purpose. And I think if we actually tuned in more to our natural talents rather than worrying about what we should be good at to get the most amount of money, I think the world would just be amazing. One thing I absolutely love doing is I know that I am here to hopefully inspire people. And I come away from conversations with people and they'll message me being like, thank you so much. Like, I feel like loads better. I feel like I'm really like G'd up, ready to do this now. Like, that's what I love. And I love talking to people and understanding people and connection, and I just want to build joy. And that's why I started this ghost community, because it's like, this is the most craziest thing just to build something like that on. You would think that I should probably start some kind of like emotional page for like counseling and stuff, but it's weird how it comes through. But however it comes through, like, you guys are here for a reason. Like, you're connecting to me for a reason. And look at the ripples we're creating, guys. Scary ghost story ripples everywhere. Now, the next ghost story is from 5 years ago, and the person's name is Bouncy Seal. So this person says, my alma mater had some interesting lore. The first is Gertie. She was a student in the days when the university campus housed schools for girls. Bertie fell down an elevator shaft, and when the university bought the property, the main building was razed and the bricks used for other structures on campus. She was often seen walking across the brick pathway on the front lawn until they tore up the pathway to lay down a more even surfaced path back in the 90s. A music professor teaching a class on the second floor of the music building saw a face looking in the window at him. He walked out of the classroom and never went back into that particular classroom again. They eventually painted over the window. My best friend was practicing her clarinet one evening in the small practice room and kept getting a part wrong. She started hearing a piano playing that clarinet part in the next room. She figured it was a professor that was tired of hearing her getting it wrong. She finally got creeped out and left. Went back the next day and there was no piano in any of the nearby rooms that could account for what she heard. A group of students put baby powder down in one of the performance halls around the piano. They hid in another room. Later they heard the piano playing, but the baby powder was undisturbed. These are just a series of things that have happened by the sounds of it. It's not like a flowing story. And this person says, I was laying on my side in my dorm room suffering from a migraine. I was alone in the room and the door was locked. But I felt someone come and sit on the bed behind me. In addition to the brick pathway, Gertie had been seen in one of the women's dorms, the administration building, the bell tower, and the old music building. There was a story of another girl that had a crush on one of the university's basketball players in the early days of the school. The dormitory she lived in also housed the cafeteria in the basement. One night, she stole a knife from the cafeteria and proceeded to stab her rival. She stabbed the wrong girl. Upon realizing, she ran down the hall and jumped from the third floor balcony. I have even heard running footsteps late at night from the third floor. My best friend / roomie was in our bathroom one morning, and they've put in brackets, it was a corner room with a private bathroom rather than a suite. I was still in bed, but she saw a girl in blue walk past the door to the bathroom, as if she had come in through the door to the hall, going towards where the beds were. Our room was locked. Our room was right by where one of the girls was murdered, and the victim had been wearing a blue nightgown. Not sure who this was attributable to, as in like which ghost did this, but once my roomie was alone in a locked room. She was expecting a phone call and had the cordless phone in the bathroom with her. This was mid to late 90s. She set the phone on the toilet tank against the wall so it wouldn't fall, took care of her business and left the bathroom, forgetting to take the phone with her. Moments later, she hears a splash and goes into the bathroom to find the phone bobbing in the toilet. Now, that could have just been coincidence, to be honest with you. It depends how propped up it was. If it was sat in the toilet, we can't say it was completely a ghost, can we? But it is pretty weird, considering the other stories that happened there. And she's also said many students in different girls' dorms would have objects go missing, only to find them in completely different places from where they'd been left. There were tons of stories around this place. Sounds like a cool, creepy place. I feel bad for Gertie, though, dying in the elevator shaft. Like, what a way to die. Absolutely horrific. Now, this next story is actually loads of different stories from this one person. And I will tell you the title and the short story that follows as I go through. But their name is Apache Gold, and they wrote this 14 years ago. Like I said to you, I picked the ones that were written a long time ago because I just know that they probably haven't been tampered with AI and things like that. So this first story is my college ghost stories. And they say, keep in mind, I go to college in Savannah, Georgia, which is supposedly one of the most haunted cities in the country. Also, both of my dorms I'm talking about in these stories are renovated hotels. The first one was more of a motel, so separated buildings with 2 floors, and the hallways are outside with railings. The second building has 6 floors, and the hallways are also outdoors with railings. There weren't many stories such as murders and all that in the first building, but the second building gets stops on the ghost tours to talk about how fucking haunted it is. So story 1, the sophomore year dorm hooker heels and marble story. I just love Reddit. This story is from my most recent quarter at school. I live in the 6th floor building I mentioned above. I live on the 6th floor and my girlfriend lives on the 5th floor, right under me and 2 doors down. The 6th floor is supposedly the most haunted floor in the building because of the story about room 634. When the dorms were a hotel back in the day, a hooker and her young son stayed there. They couldn't afford to live there, so the drunken landlord would take sex as payment. Disgusting bastard. That's not in the story. She would always send her kid off somewhere so he wouldn't see. The son thought it was sort of a hide and seek game. Hid for a bit and played with a set of marbles his mum gave him as a present. Well, the last time this happened, the landlord was more drunk than ever and she told her son to go hide. The landlord was getting touchy-feely and she wasn't digging it. Tried to stop him and he killed her. The son would hide in different places every time, so this last time he went on the roof of the building. But as a little kid wouldn't know, the roof doors locked behind them. The kid died on the roof. The story is that you can hear marbles on your ceiling every once in a while, and you can also hear the hooker's heels in the hallway behind you or on the ceiling if you're on the 5th floor. About the time of the end of the quarter, I was in my girlfriend's room before class at about 11 a.m. Her neighbours upstairs, who are 2 doors down from me, always make a ton of noise, so we don't usually think anything of it. But we heard the distinct sound of Hills walking around. We joked about it and let it go. Later that day, I saw the kid outside of his room and thought I'd ask him just to see what happened. He said no one in his room was wearing heels at all that day. I also hear heels all the time when I'm in my bathroom. It sounds like they're from the hallway, but my roommates who's closer to the hallway didn't hear anything. I also hear marbles all the time on my ceiling. Story 2, the freshman year dorm room Netflix disaster. Around the end of the second quarter of our freshman year, my roommate and I fell asleep watching Netflix on our Xbox. My roommate woke me up in the middle of the night because the Netflix was going through movies by itself. We looked at both of the controllers, which weren't in our reach at all, and they were both completely off. I thought it was just a glitch, but instead of a steady clicking noise going through the movies at a constant rate, it was stopping on certain ones, clicking them, and then going back to the menu to do it all over again with different movies and shows. That is proper creepy. Story 3, the freshman year dorm room chair story. It was around midterms, and my roommate and I were up late working on a project till about 2 or 3 a.m. At this point in the year, we were still new to the whole dorm life, and we were trying to keep the room as neat as possible. So we would push the chairs into the drafting tables before going to sleep. We finally get into our beds, turn out the lights, and go to sleep. We heard footsteps outside our hallway, but only by our door going back and forth. No shadows were going past our blinds, which was a little weird. We shrugged it off and went to sleep, only to wake up in the morning with my roommate's desk chair in the middle of the room facing his bed. Oh, was it sat in that chair staring at him? That's so gross. Oh, God. I mean, I feel really bad for this lady, the hooker lady, because that's, that's not her name, is it? Her name is not hooker lady. That's terrible. And of course, this poor little boy who died on the rooftop. It's just disgusting, isn't it? Oh, I can't even think about it. But hopefully it's a little boy just sat there like in awe of these people because he never got to grow up and do it. So he's like, what is this Xbox? Like, what am I doing? I can go through here and pick loads of films. What the hell? What the hell? This next one is the sophomore year phantom car story. During the last week of school, my roommate and I stepped downstairs for a cig at 2 a.m. to take a break from our final project. We walk downstairs, see the security guard and no one else there. We walk outside where there is a driveway, parking lot type thing for people to pull up and pick up people or drop them off. There was absolutely no one outside and no cars on the road, obviously because it was 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. The only thing we saw was a black Honda, probably like 2000, pull up to the door right as we walked outside. We didn't think anything of it because it was just a car. We assumed it was someone's ride. We were out there for probably 10 minutes at most and didn't notice anyone get out of the car or anyone get in from that building. Keep in mind, it pulled up to the door right as we walked outside. We still didn't think much of it as we were walking inside. I go inside first and hit the elevator button as my roommate is standing in awe in the doorway. I was confused and all he said was, "Get over here." I walked over and he said, "There's no one in this car." I looked in through the only semi-tinted windows and saw the whole driver's seat and the steering wheel and all of the other empty seats in the car. And then it drove off. No way. That can't be real, can it? No way. That's creepy. I don't know if cars... Do you know what? I've got to say this, just to back this up, because it could potentially be true. I was watching a TikTok the other day and this couple uploaded a video. Now they are sat, it's obviously in America, they're sat, and I say obviously because of how the roads were set up, sorry, you don't know that. They're sat at a traffic light and there's this big like sweeping, like, I'd think of a motorway with like 3 or 4 lanes, but like sweeping round a corner. And there's an Amazon Prime van. And behind the Prime van, she's recording this road. I guess they're just on a road trip and she just thinks of like randomly recording this bit. They see this old style car, right? Just behind the Amazon Prime van is in one lane and they're just behind in the inside lane. Everything drives past and that old-fashioned car disappears. Just completely disappears. And I had to watch it about 5 times because I had no idea what I was looking at. I was like, hang on a minute, why is this creepy? I don't get it. I had to go in the comment section to see. And when I went back on the video, I was like, oh my God, there's a vintage car there. And then the thing just disappears, completely disappears. It is bizarre. If I can find it, I will share it with you guys somehow. I'll try and put a link to it in my description if I can find it. Hopefully I liked it on my TikTok and there's I can get it to you, because otherwise I don't know how the hell I'm going to find it again. Yeah, super creepy. And it kind of gives a little bit more plausibility to this, but I don't know how a car would drive itself. If the whole car disappears, fine, like the story I've just told you, but if a Ford's driving off by itself, we've got some manufacturing issues going on, I think. Now, this next story is from someone called Flame Stamp, and they wrote it 14 years ago. This person says, my college was built on a big plot of land that located 2 mansions. The first was built as a retreat for a silver miner who had hit hard times and eventually died. The next owner had renovated the building, wiring it for electricity while he was in England. Shortly after his family returned, there was a short in the new wiring and the building burned. They built a replacement on the same foundations, lived there for years, even burying a couple of their kids on the ground. Eventually, the husband died and his survivors moved away, and the grounds and the mansion sat vacant until the college moved in. My roommate was fascinated with the history and the supposed haunting. One night, he announced that he had bought a video baby monitor and wanted to set it up on the top floor, where most of the hauntings were reported. We were 1 floor down, watching a video feed, and saw absolutely nothing for the better part of an hour. My ADD started kicking in hard, and I was focusing more and more on a photograph on the wall of the original house burning down. I complained to my roommate about it, and he tells me to ignore it, which I can't do. I decided that I'm going to turn it around at the very least. As my fingers touch the frame, a horrible shriek comes from the monitor and the picture starts flicking wildly. For the first 10 seconds, all we can do is stare. Then we go to open the door and check upstairs. Before we can turn the handle, the same spine-chilling sound comes from the hallway. We have no choice but to go out and realise that the horror show is the fire alarm going off. Since we were not supposed to be in the building in the first place, we were afraid that the answer to the question, who are you going to call, is now 911, not Ghostbusters. We run up to the top floor, throw everything in a duffel bag, the fire alarm strobing and crying the whole time, and exercise great restraint in not running at top speed out of the building. We get to the ground floor, which is beautifully appointed and had been rented out for a bar mitzvah. And most importantly, not experiencing the burning building bug out because there is no trace of the fire alarm. Weird. Talking to the security later on, of course, concealing the exact reasons for my curiosity, I discovered that there was no record of any indication of an alarm, and there was no way for it to go off in sectors. If it went off anywhere in the building, it would go off everywhere. So yeah, that's really weird, isn't it? It's like they were reliving it. This ghost was reliving it through them, but it wasn't happening anywhere else in the building. What the actual hell? That's super freaky. Now let me read you the last story. It's quite a long one, and hopefully you have quite a long episode to enjoy this week. The reason I say that is because when I'm in the car and I'm traveling home from my day in the office, it takes about 2 hours to get back, hour and 40 on a good day. I just love it when I can put a podcast on that's over an hour, because I know that's most of my journey done. So I'm trying to make them as long as I can for the moment. I'm like recording them in 20-minute batches so that I can edit them a bit easier and stitch them all together. Obviously, my editing is terrible, but you guys know what you're getting. You're getting a WordPress document, high-tech operation situation here with just a side of waffle. And that's what we like. With the podcast that I listen to, though, I absolutely love it because it's the Two Girls, One Ghost podcast. And I don't really watch them, actually. I prefer to listen to them in the car. And it's really fun because they can like bounce off each other. And it's just sometimes some things they say are just hilarious and it catches me off guard. I can only hope that I'm as funny as them. It's, you know, it's so much easier when you've got someone to bounce off, but it's also a lot easier just doing the podcast on your own because you can just crack on whenever you want. But hopefully I'm going to be doing some podcasts with some people soon. I have been asked on a few, but where I work full time and then I do this and I do my recordings and I do a few other things as well, I'm a little bit overstretched with committing to dates and times for podcasts at the moment. But I will get there. I will get there. All good things come to those who wait. And all the cheesy cliche quotes are true. You realize that as you're older and you start quoting them and you're like, the youth really is wasted on the young. Just like all of the cheesy gold nuggets that you were told when you was younger. You just find that you're dishing them out like wisdom sweets, you know? But at every stage in our life, we think we know better, don't we? Even now. And I bet you in 10 years' time, I'd be like, didn't have a bloody clue, did I? But that's good. That means that you're growing. Now, this next story is Punchy Wysass has written this. I reckon that's punchy wise ass. I reckon that's what they mean. Punchy wise ass. I mean, a punchy wise ass is absolutely fine. They wrote this 5 years ago, and it's titled College Campus Ghost. And this person says, most of my experiences are from my childhood, and a couple of things happened while I was in high school. I only ever had one major event in college, and this is it. Well, I think we should just nestle in, because this is going to be a long one, and it's going to be a good one. So they say, my campus is beautiful, and there are always people who drive through the middle of campus just to see the trees and the buildings. It's also really close to a local high school. Several high school students will drive through campus to get to school. In February of 2019, there was a terrible accident on campus. A student at a local high school was driving through campus on her way to school. Most of the streets on campus have several crossways, as pedestrians are always everywhere. Anyway, anyone who lives in this area always knows to watch for pedestrians. The driver was headed down Garland Avenue, which is one of the busiest streets on campus. She was texting and didn't see a girl in the crosswalk. The driver hit the girl and the girl died 2 days later in hospital. Everyone on the campus and in the surrounding area was extremely careful on campus after that, always paying attention to crosswalks, whether you were the driver or the pedestrian. It was really sad and depressing for a few weeks after. Oh, that sounds so horrible, bless her heart. And I bet you that person who was driving as well, I know we obviously will blame her because she was doing something ridiculous. But we know she's going to feel bad for that, and she has to live with that. And I think that's punishment enough, you know? Fast forward a few months, and it's October. I work on campus. My office is in the same building where many of the classes are. I parked in a parking garage on Garland Avenue, which forced me to cross the same crosswalk that this girl did. I crossed it multiple times after she died, and it made me feel creeped out and sad, but nothing ever happened. The week before Halloween was really busy at my job, and I was working a lot that month. I had forgotten something on campus in my office and needed to be able to work from home. My friends had made plans that night to meet up and go mini golfing at 10 p.m. I decided to go into the office and work for a couple of hours since I couldn't get any work done from home, and then I would go meet them to hang out later. The sun sets around 6:30 p.m. in the fall months, which is like the autumn months. So it was already pretty dark by the time I parked up around 7 p.m. I got out of my car and walked to the crosswalk. I crossed 3 lanes of the road and happened to look up to the right when I got into the 4th lane of traffic. There was a dark grey Toyota Corolla slowly driving towards me. I stopped dead in my tracks, and I am not quite sure why I didn't just keep walking. Something felt off about this car. The windows were very tinted to the point that I couldn't see anyone inside the car. The car stopped at about 10 feet from me, and it started to rev its engine up. That snapped me out of whatever trance I was in and made me take the final steps to the sidewalk. The car sped off to the stoplight up the road and disappeared around the corner down the street that led to my building. I shook my head thinking it was some stupid college student just trying to show off or be cool. I weaved through some of the dorms and finally got to the next crosswalk that crossed the driveway to the side door to my building. The crosswalk is in a one-way street that connects to the street that I previously crossed. I looked to my left for any oncoming traffic, and there sat the same car. I waited for the car to drive on by, but it stopped and flashed its lights at me. I guessed this meant he was trying to let me cross. I went ahead and started to walk across the street. But when I got in the middle of the road, the car lurched forward and stopped about 12 inches from me. With that, I scurried to the other side of the road and turned around to chew out the driver, out of anger for almost hitting me. I turned around to the driver window, which was very tinted. It slowly rolled down to reveal that no one was inside. I blinked to rub my eyes to make sure I was really seeing a driverless car. I looked in the back seat to see if there had been someone hiding back there trying to freak me out, but there was no one in the passenger seat or the back seat either. The driver's seat back was upright, so I knew they weren't simply laying the seat down to avoid me seeing them. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I got chills down my spine. I quickly hurried to turn around to the door. I scrambled to get my keys out, opened the exterior door, and I heard a car door open and slam shut behind me. I finally got the right key into the door and slung it open and got inside. There was another set of doors that I had to go through, and I turned around when I got through them. Both sets of doors were glass, so I could see outside, and the car was gone. I tried to block it out as someone pranking me since it was close to Halloween. I turned to go down the long hallway of the building that I worked in. This hallway had motion-activated lights that really sucked. The motion sensors didn't work really well, so most of the time they wouldn't turn on when you walked past them. I had never seen them on unless the switch was flipped. They really only turned on when you did that instead of turning on when a person walked by. This hallway had faculty offices and a few computer labs in it, but it was really late. Everyone had pretty much gone home. There was no one in the offices or computer labs as I made my way through the hall. I started walking down and the lights all turned on at once, all the way down the hall. Like I said, this only happens if someone flipped one of the switches. There were only two switches, one at the end by me and the other one at the far end. I was looking in the direction of the second light switch, and I didn't see anyone walk by to turn it on. I didn't see a hand from around the corner flip it or anything. I knew there was no one behind me who could have switched the light on from there. I was about 5 feet from it, so I know I didn't hit it by mistake. I thought it was odd, and I got another shiver down my spine, but I just kept walking. I finally made it to the end of the hallway, and I felt like someone was watching me from behind. I turned around really fast to see who it was. I looked around, and no one was there. I would have seen someone duck into one of the classrooms or office suites because all of the doors were closed when I walked by. I would have heard a door open and shut at the very least. When I decided that I was crazy and that no one was there, every single light turned off at once, like someone switched a light switch again. I was looking at both light switches and neither one moved. With that, I quickly made my way through the open part of the building to the staircase that led to my office suite. The staircase goes to the lower level of the building, and there is a landing on the second floor, which I was currently on. There are ceiling to floor windows that overlook the tiny parking lot behind the building. There was a girl standing there facing the windows with her back to me. She had long brown hair that fell to her lower waist. I could see she was wearing jeans and a white top with a large red pattern on it. It was very odd. The red splotches were random and looked almost like paint. I called out to her to say hello so I didn't startle her, but she didn't turn around. It didn't seem odd since most of the janitorial staff clean late at night. They typically have earbuds in to pass the time with music or podcasts or whatever they like listening to. It was common for them to not hear people walk up, especially since it was common for others to be there after hours. But then a thought occurred to me. I looked back at the girl who hadn't moved. She was just standing there. She didn't have a mop, broom, trash car, or anything janitorial supply-wise. I stepped down onto the first step, and that's when she slowly turned to face me. I almost puked when I saw her face. She looked to be about my age, late teens to early 20s. She was gorgeous on one side of her face, but the other side was missing. By missing, I mean that her skin was shredded. It was gone, and I could see her skull, jawbone, and teeth. From what I could tell, her expression was anger. She was furrowing her one existing brow and narrowing her good eye at me. She started stalking across the landing towards me with her arms outstretched. I couldn't rationalize what I was seeing. I had no idea how this girl was standing, let alone moving towards me quickly. The whole left side of her body was shredded, just like her face. I could see parts of bone in her arm and leg. Her clothes were torn on that side as well. I realised that the red paint I had seen on her shirt was indeed blood. I finally let my brain take over my body, and I darted down the steps and immediately to the door to my office suite. There are 4 offices down the long hallway that makes up my suite. My office was at the very end of the hallway. Like the first hallway upstairs, this one had motion-activated lights. They could also be turned on by flipping the switch on the wall. I fumbled with my keys trying to get the exterior door open. Finally, I jammed the key in and turned it. I jerked them out and practically ran down the hallway, flipping the lights on as I went. At the end of the hall was the door to my office as well. I again fumbled my keys to get that door unlocked. Before I could, I heard a slow, methodical knock on the door behind me. Jeez Louise, this is so terrifying, isn't it? My goodness. All of the classrooms and office doors in my building have long, skinny windows in them, so you can see who is knocking on the door. I turned my head and let out a scream when I saw the same girl at the door. This time she smiled at me, but it wasn't friendly. Oh, this is actually giving me the heebie-jeebies reading this. I'm actually home alone. This is freaking me the hell out. It looked evil, like she enjoyed my torment. I willed myself to turn back around to my office door and finally managed to get it open. At this point, I don't know why she isn't trying to get out of the building. Why is she trying to get into her office? Because she knows that she's not safe from this thing, no matter where she is. God, it really upsets me. Do you know, when I watch a horror film or when I watch a scary program, I'm literally like, you dumb bitch, she deserved to die. Get out that room. What the actual fuck are you doing in there? And if they act really stupid, I'm like, right, we'll kill them now. They deserve it because they've been fucking stupid. Sorry to swear so much, but you know, it's the fear talking, really. It's because I'm fearful. But I'm just like, well, you make stupid choices, you get stupid outcomes, you know? Anyway, I digress. Don't watch a horror film with me. Don't watch it, because I will spend most of the time shouting at the TV. If you don't mind that, that's fine. But, you know, you probably will. You probably will mind that. I slammed it shut behind me and it locked automatically. All the doors in my building lock automatically when they latch shut, unless you flick the latch in it to let it stay unlocked. This is a safety precaution to prevent school shooters or intruders from having easy access to classrooms or offices full of people. I scrambled to the far wall of my office, which I shared with 3 other people. It is the largest office in the suite, since there were 3 student workers who had desks in there. There was also a gigantic printer for posters and signage and such. If you were at any of the computer workstations, you couldn't be seen from the door's window. I flattened myself against one of the far walls and tried to slow my heart rate and breathing whilst listening for any signs of the girl I had seen. It was quiet, and usually when the exterior door opened and shut, you could hear it. It was a heavy door that had one of the arms attached to the frame that would cause it to slowly shut unless there was a doorstop holding it open. It was against university policy to prop a door open for longer than absolutely necessary to eliminate opportunities for intruders or school shooters. After about 20 minutes, I picked up my phone and called my then boyfriend. Not that he could really help me much, since we were long distance. He lived 6 hours away in a different state, so it wasn't like he could drive to campus to comfort me or protect me. Again, why, you know, I don't want to have any beef with this person because I'm sure they're a lovely person and you don't know what you're going to do in a situation. But call someone who is local. Call someone who's local who can come and help you. Why are you running from a half-shredded faced, evil smiling entity and trapping yourself in a corner and then calling someone who's hours away and can't help you? This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I can't handle it. I'm on the edge of my seat, literally on the edge of my seat right now. Remember, I haven't read this story in a while, okay? Obviously, I've gone with the car theme. Lots of car themes in this one, isn't there? But again, this is proper spooky stuff. This is like horror film level, I think. Anyway, she says, he answered the phone grumpily since he had been taking a nap, and I told him what had just happened, and he quickly shut down any suspicions by reminding me it was only a few days before Halloween. He suggested that it might be a group of college kids playing a trick on me, and I agreed and apologized for waking him up, since he was clearly unhappy with me. He didn't believe in anything supernatural whatsoever, so I wasn't about to suggest what I knew deep in my stomach. that it wasn't a prank. This was some sort of spirit trying to scare me, get my attention, torment me. What it was trying to do was unclear at that moment, but I knew that it wasn't a living human. I just shook my head and tried to clear my thoughts, pulled out my laptop and began working on a project I was trying to get finished. I worked for 3 hours solid and looked at my phone during a break. It was just after 10 p.m. and my phone was dying. I decided that 3 hours was enough time and I needed to get home before my phone was completely dead. I started packing up my things and began making my way back towards the door. I opened it and switched off the lights and let the door swing shut behind me. I walked cautiously towards the exterior suite door, as that was the last place I saw the girl. I half expected her to jump out when I got close enough to the door, but nothing happened. I opened the door and turned to go up the staircase to make my way out of the building. I didn't see anything, so I took my time. Once I got to the top step, I heard soft sobbing noises coming from the corner of the landing where I first saw the girl. She was sitting on the floor this time with her legs crossed, the way that small children do. Her head was bowed, looking down at the floor in front of her, and she was shaking slightly from the sobbing. Her back was to me again, so I couldn't see her face. My heart did go out to her because she sounded so sad and in pain, but my brain just kept thinking about the evil smile she showed me, and I was terrified. I turned on my heel and ran out of the building, but she started talking through the crying. Please stay with me. I don't have any friends. Please stay here forever with me. We can be friends. Oh, God. She kept repeating that she was alone and had no friends and kept asking me to stay with her. I got chills down my spine and didn't think twice about running out of the school door that I'd come in earlier. I was at a dead run when I came to the crosswalk. I was genuinely terrified and wanted to get as far away from that building as possible, but I wasn't stupid enough to go running across the street without looking. I glanced both ways, searching for headlights, and once I saw it was clear, I started walking as quickly as I could across the four-laned road. Once I got to the middle of the road, I noticed headlights out of the corner of my eye. It was the same car that had spooked me on my walk over to my office earlier. I bolted across the street and quickly ran on the sidewalk to the parking garage. I wasted no time hopping in the elevators and frantically pressed the button to force the doors closed when the car stopped in the street directly in front of the elevators. The driver's door opened, but I didn't see who or what got out. The elevator doors shut right before I could see anyone step out. I leaned against the back of the elevator and waited while it took me up 3 floors. I always parked on the top floor of the parking garage, especially if I knew I'd be there after dark. It's very well lit and typically has plenty of spaces available. I stepped off the elevator and looked over the rail into the street below to see if I could spot the car, but it was nowhere in sight. I let out a breath and quietly walked to my car about 20 feet from the elevator. I placed my backpack in the back seat and hopped in the front seat. I started my car and sped off down the ramp to the lower levels towards the exit. I was currently on the 5th floor and the exit was on the 2nd floor. When I reached the bottom of the first ramp on the 4th floor, the same car was waiting for me. I floored it going down to the right, since this was one-way traffic and the car was sitting on my left. I sped up as quickly as I could, around and around, circling the floors and ramps, descending to the bottom. I finally hit the 2nd floor and glanced into my rearview mirror. The headlights were turning onto the road beside me. I completely lost it. I darted out onto the road and cruised through the intersection quickly. I drove to my apartment about a mile off campus, and the whole drive I checked my rearview mirror. No one was behind me the whole drive home. I got out of my car in the parking lot in front of my apartment and quickly ran inside, locking the door behind me. The following nights I had little sleep, and it took me several weeks to finally get through an entire night with no nightmares. Well, a few months later, in February 2020, the local news channel started covering the death of a girl that had occurred a year earlier. On the morning of her 1-year anniversary, they shared a photo of her on the news programme. I always watch the news when I get ready in the morning, as I like to keep up with current events in my area and get the forecast of the weather. I was in the bathroom listening to my bedroom television as the segment on her began. As I was putting on makeup when the news reporter spoke her name out loud. I won't repeat her name just to protect her identity, and I don't want to draw attention where it isn't wanted. I got chills down my spine when the name was said on the TV. I dropped everything I was doing and went to sit on the edge of the bed to watch the story. Seconds later, a photo of her popped up on the screen, and I went ice cold. It was the same girl I had seen in October, the same girl I had seen in my office with a mangled face and body. She had the same outfit on, except it wasn't torn. Her shirt was also pure white, not red. I felt my blood drain from my face as I realized what I had seen a few months prior. According to the news reporter, the girl had been hit by a teenage driver that was on her way to high school. The teen had been texting and driving at the same time. She didn't realize that she'd hit someone and dragged the victim about 10 feet before she came to a stop. The girl was not killed instantly, but instead lived for 2 days. She was in a coma before she died and never woke up. I haven't seen her since, but I still refuse to stay in my office after dark alone. I don't know why she chose me or what she wanted from me. I don't know if she simply wanted help or a friend, or if she wanted to harm or scare me. Maybe I'll never know. I sure hope I don't see her again. But I hope she's found peace wherever she is. I mean, wow, that was terrifying. It's funny, isn't it? Because you would think if this was like a human spirit and they had died, I don't know why they would want to be so menacing. Unless, like I said earlier, their spirit on the other side has been like infiltrated a little bit because they didn't have a belief system and they haven't like called out for help or whatever. So like their soul may be darkened and they might just be being taken over by evil things. And then that's that. I don't know. I don't know how it works. But it is really freaky that just a normal girl who died can be like that savage. Maybe she was a bit twisted in real life and just really like tormenting people. I don't know. But I don't want to speak ill of the dead anyway, because that was a really horrific way for her to pass. And God, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy, would you? Poor girl. But have you ever seen anything like this? Has any creepy experiences like this ever happened to you, which is like so intense? If you have got something, I promise to not judge you like I did with this girl. I really don't believe she should have been walking into our office suite knowing that that thing was still there. And she stayed for 3 hours working. She needs a bravery medal or a stupidity medal. I'm not sure which. I'm not sure which one to award her at this point, but there's got to be something going on there. Now, I am going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Let me know in the comments if you've got anything that you want me to talk about in particular. I might do a podcast about Dolores Cannon because she is so cool, and it'd be really cool for you guys to learn a little bit more about her. I will drop everything you need, the book, the Real Ghost Stories book, my email address, and if I can find a link to that creepy car video, I'll put that in the description as well. But I will catch you guys in the next episode. Please take care of yourselves. Have a lovely rest of your week. Have a lovely Sunday. Have a lovely week next week. And yeah, just make sure you get yourself out for a lovely walk. Connect again. Hit the reset button. And you lot are bloody brilliant. I'll catch you soon.